Hello everyone, my name is Shemit and welcome to the Summer of App miniseries. Before I begin, I just want to say thank you so much for all the love and support for the first 5 episodes. I definitely wish I had gotten more episodes finished, but grade 9 was a crazy year overall. It felt like every 2 weeks something new was happening. Bad, good, yeah, whatever. But look, hey, I'm a couple months wiser, and I'm slowly counting down the days before the new school year starts. There's not much to do at home, to be honest. Just chores. Uh, this is also the first time I'm recording at home. So, yeah, that's probably why it sounds different. I did get a mic, but you can't really replicate a sound booth. It is a little crazy, to be honest, trying to figure out everything with all these systems or working the sound levels and everything. But I hope everything goes well. And I also want to point out, if you do hear a little bit of background noise, well, in the back, then I'm really sorry about that. It's actually kind of hard to get everyone quiet, especially in a Brown family. So you might be wondering, what is the Summer of Ant miniseries? Well, you see, a couple of days ago, yeah, literally just a couple of days ago, I've just finished my 1 month tour or trip across Europe. I went to a lot of different places, and you might be wondering, why am I talking about my vacation? This is a podcast. Well, you see, what I did with my vacation is that I used it for content, just how any person on the social media does. Yeah. So, throughout the entire trip, I kind of just took notes, found some interesting things, went exploring, wrote down anything I needed to. So by the end of the trip, I ended off with almost 2 full pages of notes. So yeah, there is a lot to talk about. And this mini series might seem like I'm bragging about my trip, but it's not. Please. I'm just getting content from a new source, if I can put it like that. So I want to kick things off with, well, how we got there. So this trip took a lot of planning, a lot of timing, a lot of moving places, but everything went well. It all started in August 15th, excuse me. August 15th was the day of our flight. We took our flight all the way to, what was it? Yeah, it was London Gatwick. So it was about a 3 hour drive from my cousin's place in Birmingham. So my uncle came over, he picked us up, and I kind of just slept the entire ride, I'm not going to lie. The plane, Air Transat, it's not the greatest airline, but I enjoyed the flight. I did nothing but watch movies, to be honest. What did I do? What movies did I watch? Oh yeah, I watched King Richard, which was about Serena Williams and her sister, and about how Serena's dad, he had planned everything from Serena's career from a very young age. So the same way how King Richard, like I want to say, how he had a giant plan for his daughter, we had a giant plan for this trip. Aha, aha. Okay, and the other movie I watched was the first Fantastic Beasts movie. It was actually they're both solid movies, I won't lie. Um, oh yeah, the airplane had mood lighting, which is really cool, or just ambient lighting, if you will. It was really interesting because it was a night flight, so we left that night and got there in the morning. So the lighting was kind of cool. They turned it off like mid-flight so people could sleep, but imagine sleeping on a plane. You're only there for so long. Why choose not to be conscious during then? Nah, but mood lighting's really cool. For some reason, I've always been a really big fan of little details like that. Like if you came, or if you saw me at my desk right now, it's filled with little trinkets and things, like my Pokemon cards and my Minecraft posters. So there's a lot of little things. For some reason, I've always been very keen of things like that. They add a lot of character to something. Like if everything's in your face, you kind of just process the front image and that's it. But if you have a little bit of depth to anything, really, a picture, a music, anything, It honestly adds a lot to it. We had food on the plane too. It was this weird like marinara. There was like chicken with like a marinara sauce, and on the side there was like these couscous stuff. Couscous is like these little, I think it's like chickpea balls of sorts. It tasted okay, and it had a really weird texture. I won't lie, but overall it was a light meal. I guess I think they always pack like really light, airy meals, if that makes sense. So no one, yeah. So please, no one has to go to the bathroom mid-flight. If I'm gonna give my rating for that, probably like around a 6 out of 10. Yeah, 6 out of 10 seems good. Now on to Birmingham. Birmingham was the first destination, I want to say, and we spent, I think it was about a week there. It was honestly really cool because it was a really interesting way of introducing myself to Europe and getting used to everything. Because it is, once again, they're both, like, I mean, North America and Europe are very developed. Sorry, very developed places, and they have like similar things. Like, it's not like they don't have like cars or anything there, but there's always a little twist in something that honestly made it kind of annoying. Uh, Traffic system. That's the first thing on my nose for good reason. The traffic there is really weird because it's super congested and super busy, I want to say, because it's constantly moving and there's no concept of like the red light, green light. There's no concept of the signals, and they always use roundabouts. I think roundabouts are more efficient, to be honest, because it's never really stopping the traffic. It kind of just orders it out a little bit more, and instead of having it coming in like loads like it does with, or like packs with a signal, it's constantly moving. And another thing, I don't want to say no one knows how to drive there, but their driving there is really crazy. It's like everyone's very fast. Everyone's really free with the rules and whatnot, which honestly made me feel like I was gonna die every time I stepped into the car. But at the same time, it's the UK. Everyone there is educated, and yeah, so there's not that many crashes, I want to say, compared to maybe Brampton or the GTA, which is interesting. The next thing, oh yeah, there is a very, very big Muslim presence in Birmingham for some reason. I don't understand the significance of it or how it happened, but it seemed like literally every other building was some type of mosque or like praying center. And we even visited this street. I forgot what it was called, but it was this like, I think it was like a 2 mile long street, which was literally just one giant bazaar. So it was really interesting. We went there just to look around. My parents wanted to get some like clothes and souvenirs and whatnot because everything there was relatively like authentic. And me and my brothers, being fat, we decided to go to a little shop. I don't know what it was. We just got like a small like seekh kebab for like $5. Not £5, or £5, if you will. For those who don't know, first of all, I feel bad for you. Second of all, a seekh kebab is a type of kebab. It's cooked in a very specific way where it's like ground meat, but it's placed around a skewer, and then it's kind of like rotisserie in a way that it's like over a flame and it's like always turning, or you're always turning it depending on how you're making it. And it's really good. And I think there was some type of lamb residue in there. I think they used like the fat from the lamb to cook it. My brothers didn't like it as much, but I was astonished. That was honestly that was one of the best kebabs I've ever had. Next thing on my note is, oh yeah, weird snacks. The snack game, I want to say, is really different compared to what's over here. Especially in Canada, where we have limited flavors compared to the obesity capital of America, just right down south. Snacks are really interesting. There are Lace over there, but it's called Walkers. Lace is apparently, I didn't know this, but like Lace has changed their like names depending on where they are around the world. That's actually kind of cool, to be honest. Once again, different perspectives. I always talk about perspectives one way or another. And Walkers over there are honestly, yeah, Lace Walkers. Please don't get confused. They had really weird flavors over there. Like instead of having your usual like the holy trinity over here of like original sour cream barbecue, their holy trinity is it's like cheese and onion and like roast beef and like bacon flavored stuff. So they have a really interesting, and they can't even the health regulations and whatnot are also really really more strict, I want to say, over there. So they don't taste as, I guess, commercial. They taste a lot more natural, but at the same time, replicating a flavor without half of the things you need to make it, even though they are very unhealthy, those things are necessary to create that flavor. So it was honestly interesting because you would always eat a flavor and then it never tasted like how it should be. I think I tried roast beef one time and it tasted like noodles. Yep, noodles. Oh yeah, speaking of food, food there is like stupid cheap. Like honestly, it's crazy how cheap. Like there's a place around the corner of my cousin's house where it's like a Nando's type spot. If you guys know what Nando's is, yeah, it was like a Nando's type spot, and it was, I think they had a sign. It was like two whole chickens for like 15 pounds. So even with the conversion and everything, that's about, and look, everything there's tax included. So if it says 15 pounds, it is 15 pounds. It honestly made everything easier, but being in a very taxi yeah taxi place, it was a little bit interesting not being able or not having to do that little bit of calculation in my head when I'm looking at a price. But yeah, it was about, I think it was like two chickens for 15 pounds, which is honestly insane. If I'm comparing it to Nando's, I mean, we didn't try it, but like comparing it to Nando's, I think like like half a chicken or a whole chicken. I don't know. Yeah, I think half a chicken is about 15 pounds. So you're getting about a quarter for the same price. Granted, it might not be as good, but I mean, if you have a lot of food, quantity over quality, that's what some people do. Me personally, not very much. I'd rather have a mix of both. That's my philosophy. Everything is good in moderation. Everything. Working, gaming, whatever you need. Everything is good in moderation. Sleeping is also very good in moderation. Now, my life philosophies aside, services over there are also really cool. Or services in the sense maybe like transit, for example. Everything there is more efficient, I want to say. There's a lot of people use like public transit instead of their own cars. Also because a lot of people are more cautious about the environment over there. So it is different, like I said, very different. We also, Birmingham, honestly, I don't want to be mean, but Birmingham is like the Brampton of the Brampton of the UK. They're both very similar in terms of things like the crime and sketchy people and whatnot, and just the amount of, yeah, just sketchy stuff that happens over there. It's a very, very crime full place. Oh yeah, things over there are smaller, like a lot smaller. Like my cousin's house, it's like kind of big compared to other houses, but at the same time, it's maybe about, I don't want to say half, we'll say 2/3 of my house in North America. So everything there's smaller. I mean, like food portions and everything. Really, everything there's, like I said, everything has a slight tweak to it that makes it just a little bit annoying for those that are visiting. Oh yeah, I remember those, I think it was like our third or fourth day. Let me go through my notes. Before continuing on, I just want to point out after going to my notes, another thing with the plane, it's kind of random, but what I always do, if especially like with the plane or if I'm like sitting somewhere, I try to keep everything around me, so I always have this like little bubble of like my own things, where I'll have my headphones right in front of me, I'll have like my bag under me, I'll have like everything around me, and then I'll have that like little space and like my personal bubble so I can like move around a bit, but like everything around me, and I kind of like zone out a bit, and just having that little bubble, I think that's what I always do for some reason. It's really cool. Yeah, having my own bubble is really cool. Going back to the Birmingham, it was the fourth day. It was really hot that day. I think it was about like the 35 degrees. It was like a record break. And honestly, it was so hot. We hadn't experienced heat like that all year. And of course, it had to go to the peak of its might as we were visiting. Like the 1 week we're visiting was the hottest week they've had in like 10 years maybe. So we went bowling. It was fun. I'm actually kind of good at bowling. I think I already said this. So we also went to this place, or this haven, I want to say, called Tipu Sultan. I don't know the history behind it for a couple things. Okay, but Tipu Sultan, I think he was a prince of sort, and it was a restaurant which had it was actually kind of fancy too. It was pretty fancy. It had like a Rolls Royce out front. I think it was the owners. It was a really nice Rolls Royce. It was like a navy blue. And like there was like its own little courtyard and everything. And it was some of the greatest like Indian, Pakistani, like desi food I've had in I don't want to say years, but in a long time. I think the last time I've gone like that, like mine or like that like amazed by a plate of food was my birthday in 2021. I went to this place in Brampton called Karahi Point. A lot of desi food, but Karahi Point was a revelation. Oh my god. According to my dad, that was the closest he's ever tasted to Pakistani food, which is mental because half of this, like everything there is either like street food in Pakistan or like a proper restaurant. So I don't even want to imagine how something like just as simple as like a street food would be in a place so vibrant with flavor and spice. Yeah, Tipu Sultan was absolutely amazing. Our the next day was kind of we explored the downtown of Birmingham. It was honestly really interesting knowing like the history and overall like British culture is so interesting. Like oh, accents aside, accents are a whole different discussion. But overall British culture is so interesting. There's so much to learn about it, and Canadian history is so boring. It's all just miscommunication between the British, the First Nations, and the French, and resulted in a couple wars, many unnecessary wars, I want to say. And overall, Canadian history is boring, man. But I want to thank my grade 7 teacher for that because I don't know what magic spell he put on us, but he made something as boring as history so much fun, and I still remember everything. I think those are like the best teachers that make it fun, and then you're actually learning everything while doing it, and you actually get to remember it like that. You get to remember because you had fun learning about it. If I just stare at my textbook and memorize formulas of math or whatever, that's not learning. That's just getting by with the paper. Yeah. Um We also went to see Oxford. One of my cousins, he's super smart. He's like really smart. He's done like two different studies at Oxford University, and it's like, like the biggest, it was like the most prestigious university, and it was really cool exploring it. Probably one of the reasons why, because surprisingly, there's a lot of scenes that were from Harry Potter that were filmed in the university. Like, if you guys remember, I think it was in the Goblet of Fire, where Professor McGonagall had like the little dance lesson with the class. That was shot in a church that's part of the campus. Actually, wait, no. Oxford as a whole isn't really um, like a traditional university in the sense that it's just one giant campus. It's essentially the university is split up into each little department, and each department has its own campus in a way, and they're like spread out across the city of Oxford. So at the end of the day, the entire city is kind of like the campus, and it's all in its entire vibe of like students and like tourists and like teenagers, and not teenagers but like young adults enjoying life. So there's a lot of like shops and stores there that are really cool. We also went, I think I believe it was called punting. We went punting. It was crazy because I haven't. If for those who don't know, punting is like a very. It's like a kayaking in a way, where you move the boat with a giant metal rod, and it was very crazy because I had no idea we were going punting until I got on the boat, and I had being a little bit shocked from that, and me not being able to swim in over a year because of not having an open pool and whatnot. I wish it was just about an hour of me screaming and panicking. But at the end of the day, it was pretty fun, I won't lie. It was something new. There's a lot of like competitiveness in Oxford. Like each sport has its own like competitive group of like teams and like guilds and whatnot. Oxford is actually really similar to Harry Potter in the sense that there's like houses and like competitions between the different houses, and like there's like prefects and like the professors and everything. It is very similar, which I believe technically I should say that Harry Potter is very similar to Oxford, but you get the picture. I also want to point out that Tim Hortons there is like the biggest scam ever. I got Tim Hortons on the day we went to explore Birmingham, and it was like £3 for like a single donut, which is about like, I think it's about $4 Canadian, and the donut was so dry it was literally like eating like a cake that's been outside in the fresh air for like a day. It was so dry, and like it was like crumbling in your mouth. The chocolate itself was like a very like bitter too. It wasn't like proper, or like it wasn't like the normal chocolate they use, and but some reason they had a lot of other things, dude. Like they had a lot of like lunch things. Like they had like different sandwiches. They had like hot dogs and whatnot. I wanted to get those, but like it seems like Starbucks and Tim Hortons had like switched places in the UK, or maybe just in Birmingham. That in Tim Hortons everything was so expensive to the point where you literally could not buy anything under like £5. But in Starbucks over there, I got Starbucks, or just like I went inside of Starbucks to get some water. Like everything there was cheap and whatnot. It's like they flip sides, which was like very weird in the sense that I refuse to go to Starbucks here because it's an absolute waste of money when I can get a large vanilla iced coffee from Tim Hortons for $3, which serves all my purposes. Another thing, going back to Oxford, there's a really, I guess, interesting way to get to know people in Oxford, because they have this system where there's like a family system in the sense that when you first get into the university, you get entrusted to two parents that are like obviously they're like in a higher year than you, I want to say, a higher year, and they like do one of your courses for the first year, and there's a whole system where you like have to have like an Oxford wife. So you literally have to propose to people, or yeah, I think there's like a limit that you have to propose like I think like one or two people before your like time is done in Oxford. So it was really funny because when my cousin, when we went to Paris, which we'll talk about later, when we were in Paris, he actually found his Oxford wife in Paris. So it was really funny. It's for those two to be reunited again. Oh yeah, going back to Tipu Sultan, I keep on jumping back and forth. I know I said it was really fancy and all, but once again, the prices there were so cheap. It was like going to a normal like fast food place, and it was honestly like, it was all like traditional things, and it was so like fun, I want to say, in the sense that there were so many different dishes to try, but everything was so good and so perfectly like well made, like traditionally and like seasoned, and like everything about it was amazing. I hadn't eaten that much food. I ate enough food to last for like 3 days. So honestly, staying in Birmingham was a really, really good start because I got to, first of all, I got to see a lot of new family, like the cousins I was staying with and the cousins I visited. It was honestly, it was really nice meeting new family for the first time that isn't through like a video screen or like a Skype call, which is, it was really nice meeting family, and it was a very nice introduction to like British culture and just Europe overall. Like I said, there's so many little discrepancies that it feels similar enough to not feel like uncomfortable, but at the same time, everything has its own little tweak to it. So you did get kind of annoyed. So I think that is it for this episode. We went through, I guess, the airplane ride here and Birmingham, which was, I think this episode was good. Overall, I think since I'm at home, I might be a little bit more casual with this. Like I'm joking around a bit more maybe, or maybe I'm not, I'm ranting off a bit more, which honestly might not be a good thing because you guys are gonna get bored really quick. So if you got this far, thank you so much for listening. Have a good day. Next episode is gonna be Paris, so there's a lot to talk about that, so I think I might spread it out into 2 episodes. But that is it for the first episode of the AMP revamp. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day.